I used the Survival Island preset and spent nearly 2,000 days adding every biome to this island, and moved the entire village to a custom jungle village, as well as overhauling the nether and end entrances, and adding an entirely new island to spawn. So sit back, relax, and let's take a tour of the island. I'll also be including a link for the world download down in the description. So to start us off, this is my house. This is where most of my base of operations have been. I do have a base with all of my storage stuff in it that I will show a little bit later on. But down here is the basement. Obviously I've got a nice bubble elevator to get in and out. But this is where, I farm my sniffers, my paper for fireworks, my XP farm, which has been extremely useful during this playthrough. And then obviously I've got little things like lava farms, nether wart farms for potions. I've got flower farms here for obviously getting all of the items I need to build these custom biomes. Then walking out of the front door, I'm greeted with this pathway which leads to multiple other biomes. I've got my dogs here. These don't have name tags, but this is Bob. This is Bob the puppy. My stables are up here nestled inside this tiger biome, and I couldn't really figure out how to do custom mega trees, so instead I elevated them up by a few blocks and then extended the trunks down and made them a little bit bigger. I also planted a bunch of mushrooms, ferns, grass all around this biome. And then up here is where I keep all of my horses. Directly underneath the stables though, I do have a farm. I didn't want to make any automated farms because I was streaming this and every moment of this is streamed. So I made a bee-powered wheat farm. Basically the bees this is their nest. They fly from these nests over to these flowering azalea plants and then fly back, and they fertilize all of these crops while they do it. It's been really fun actually. It was a fun thing to make. Outside of the wheat farm, I've got a regular spruce biome with, mud patches. I've got some packed mud patches as well. I filled this with berries, different flowers, and in all the biomes I've also included animals respective to each biome. So in here I've got foxes, and then over here in the birch forest, which I basically just made mushroom looking trees. They sort of copy the design of the blue mushrooms that I have over in my mushroom biome, which I'll show a bit later on. But in this biome I've got chickens tied to fence posts underneath the ground, as well as sheep, and I think I've got a few pigs littered around in here as well. I do. There's a little piggy. And obviously it's a birch forest, so I have to include a few beehives around here as well. I have a snowy plains biome. Now, I couldn't actually use snow layers, so I had to just use regular snow blocks, and I wanted to include little bushes like this. So I've got little bushes all over surrounded by leaves, but unfortunately because I had to use snow blocks, I couldn't actually put any additional foliage on the ground, which did kind of suck. And the mobs that I chose to put in this one were, I've got polar bears down there, I've got some winter bunnies as well as foxes, and this Arctic fox is in an eternal struggle to try and capture that bunny. Honestly, it's been so funny to watch. Coming toward the back, I've got a shrine here for a zombie. This guy was actually quite recent. He tried to give me a flower and I killed him by mistake. So the comments said that I should make a shrine for him, so I did. Obviously he's on the diamond block, it's an armor stand with a zombie head and a red rose, which is, well, a red tulip, which is kind of nice. And then just behind this, I have a mixture of an ice spikes biome and a frozen ocean with some icebergs. Obviously, I kind of mixed the design a little bit. I didn't want it to be all completely one biome. I wanted to do a mixture of the two. So I've got some that are more spiky, some that are more flat, with a mixture of things like lapis, blue ice, and regular ice. Nestled in between this frozen biome and the birch forest, I also have a custom cave here. This was not vanilla, this didn't come with a map, but I carved out this cave and made it a little dripstone cave. I've got my zombie horses in here just to keep them safe from the sunlight. And then just past this you can see the cherry blossom falling onto the ground here from up there, again all custom made. But in here I also have a lush cave. I do have a deep dark biome, but it's on the other side of the map, more toward the spruce forests. Going out the other exit from this lush cave, it brings you out to the cherry grove biome, which I've also included aloes because I feel like it fits the theme, as well as some beetroot plants littered around, and then grass here and there. But all of these were custom made. I used I used the, I think it was mangrove. It's either mangrove or warped um, stairs for the accents for here. And then obviously I've built up all of the trees to be a little bit weird and wacky, which is cool. But then right next to this, we have a flower forest or a meadow biome. And I felt like the sniffers were probably the best fit to go into this biome just because they, they like sniffing grass, they like flowers. So I figured if I was going to stick a weird, wacky mob in here, it would be the sniffer. And then right next to this, we have the oak forest, which is the most recent biome that I actually made. I do have a few bee nests littered around, but they don't really have bees. Because this was the most recent addition to the island, I do have baby mobs that have been fed golden dandelions as well. So I've got baby cows, and I've got a few baby chickens. I've got a little baby chick over here that will never grow up. And again, they're just tied to the ground. You can kind of see the lead go under here. It's just tied to a fence post under the ground. So they don't despawn, they don't leave, they just stay nice and in place. It's kind of cool. Within this biome as well, I also included a few little pumpkin patches, which I felt were kind of cute. But right behind the oak biome, we have two of the swamp biomes. The mangrove forest just here, and just above this is actually the end islands that I built on top of here with some hanging roots and end rods underneath for a bit of lighting, and that leads directly into the end here. I also included things like sea pickles, and this is the only biome I actually included mob heads in, so I've got some creepers about, I've got some zombies, and there are some skeletons littered around here as well. There's one, look. And this is all just a lovely little overgrown mangrove forest biome. And then, of course, I also have the regular swamp biome just over here. And in this biome, instead of building any custom trees or regular trees, I actually just decided to include azalea trees as the only trees in this biome, and I think it fits really well with the swamp theme. There are no lush caves here, unfortunately, but I have included things like mushrooms, packed mud, moss, as well as firefly bushes for a little bit of ambience, just to make it seem a little bit more swamp-like. And just behind the swamp, I do have, next to the meadow, a tiny little patch of sunflowers, just to add that extra biome in here with the space that I had. Just across the river from this swamp, I also have a custom savanna biome, with a few acacia trees just dotted around with some stone for accent. In this biome I included a lot of rough ground, like the coarse dirt as well as grass, and I also included the newer, I guess you could say, cactus flower as well as the dried grass. And again, I gave some dandelions to these baby armadillos to keep them small forever. Coming up to the top of this savanna biome and flying across, I do have a very tiny Badlands biome over here. That's literally just a tiny rock with one cactus on it and a few bits of foliage littered around. I didn't really do too much with this because I didn't really have that much space. But then over on the other side here, these two islands are completely man-made. These weren't original land masses in the Survival Island preset that I built this from. But I do love the fact that I made these custom mushrooms. One of the first things I did when deciding to turn this from a regular biomes build into custom biomes was make these giant mushrooms, and you can see here the slight similarities between these mushrooms here, these custom blue ones, with the birch trees that I showed you at the start. It follows the same sort of shape, but it still works in its own way. And underneath the ground, I've put a load of firefly bushes, just so it feels very mushroomy. They sort of act like spores from the mushrooms floating in the wind. You can sort of see them jutting around the screen like this. Walking in between the oak and the spruce biome here, I also have a ravine that I fully turned into a custom bee paradise. I didn't really have this idea at the start, but it took me a while. I eventually settled on this design where I sort of made little honeycomb in the walls, bee nests here, and I also included it because I do have some crop farms hidden inside of this ravine, as well as some regular animal farms. I use these for food and stuff. But this was a pretty fun build to do. And then on this side over here, I also have a little entranceway into the waterlogged ravine, where I can access my Nautilus mobs. Leaving the ravine and then walking a little bit up this path, there is the nether portal, which originally was just a tiny ruined portal with a little patch of netherrack, but I did add a few biomes to this as well. I expanded the nether, I added the warped forest and the crimson forest, but I didn't really have too much space to add the basalt delta or the soul sand valley, unfortunately. But over here we have a tiny patch of land that is actually just a plains biome with a bunch of flowers. I've got some horses, not that I know where they've gone. Oh, there's one. So I've got a mule down here. I think there's a horse over there somewhere. But then behind this, I actually have a dark oak forest. This is one of the first forests I actually did on this island, as opposed to that one or the other ones over there. This one's the first truly like custom trees, custom everything. I also included the mushrooms that I built over in the Mushroom Island. This was like the second one I did. But I made all of these trunks a little bit thicker, and I included some hanging lanterns for a little bit of ambiance just around the area. But it does get quite dark in places, even with the lanterns. Not quite dark enough for mobs to spawn, but it is pretty ambient as is, and I really love the way this turned out. Just behind this, I actually have a custom pale garden. I did include some of the blue mushrooms that were over in the Mushroom Islands, because I felt that it fit the vibe here. I do have some wither roses around as well, but I included some mycelium, pale moss, grass, as well as obviously I've got creaking hearts in there. So creaking do actually spawn in this biome at night, which is really fun to see and kind of terrifying when I don't see them sneaking up on me at night. Just behind this pale biome, I also have a custom mountain. I built this over a good 10 or 20 streams, building this up from the little rock it was. Just down there at the bottom, I've got a gravelly shore, but I also have a happy gas sort of friends all the way around this. That's why I call it the Happy Mountain, because there are ghasts everywhere. They're all named, so I've got things like Windy, I've got Smiley, I think this one Gassy, is it Gassy? This one is Gassy. I can't remember all of the names. Oh, this one's Floaty. Yeah, so I've given all of the Happy Gas names, which is kind of cute. Again, that was in the more recent update with the name tags being craftable. Inside this ravine, however, just above where the Nautilus Bay is, I have a custom sort of lush ravine, I guess you could call it. Glow lichen on the walls. I've got custom amethyst, there's one there, there's one over there as well. So I've drank a night vision potion, so if I go down here I should be able to see. I have actually included a custom deep dark biome into this sort of cave here. It's not perfect, but there are things like shriekers, sensors, and a bunch of catalysts all the way around. All I had to do to get this working was come down here with a few catalysts and kill a bunch of mobs to get all of the skulk to spread. This was fairly easy. The only thing that was a bit more difficult was hanging all of these soul lanterns from the ceiling. And then just up there you can see that is one of the farms that's hidden inside the bee ravine. The last thing on this island is just behind my cottage and behind all of these boulders and trees. I actually have a bridge heading to my iron farm. This isn't really aesthetic, but it is very much necessary to keep everything going. So I built a tiny little drawbridge here, and obviously I do have some chickens under here attached to leads, which are then attached to these fence posts, which does make it look pretty cool. But in here is my iron farm. This has been quietly running in the background for the past couple of months. It's been really useful. Back at the mangrove swamp, if I just follow this path along here to this little bridge I've got going over here, I actually come to one of the first islands in this survival island preset that I completely overhauled. I did this initially by adding the desert over here. I also included a little strip of a red sand desert as well. I added custom things like these custom cactuses, which are just stripped bamboo with vines on them. I also included cactus flowers, and on some of these cactuses I do have red candles to cactus flowers as well. I also added some wells to this biome. I do have regular yellow sandstone wells over there as well. But I think the best part of this was the oasis little area here that I built. I included some golden dandelions because I felt that it did fit the vibe of this build. But I do have a little coral reef in the bottom there, as well as an entire coral reef in this river. The entire river is covered with coral, we've got sea pickles, we've got coral, regular blocks, as well as I did include, I think this is granite that I built with, but I felt that it fit the build well, and that's obviously what happens naturally in that biome, so I added it. I do have lava lakes here that I covered with stones as sort of spurts of lava coming out and like littering the ground. I have dead bushes to act as, dead bushes as well as mangrove roots. And the mobs I chose for this biome, if I can find one, there are rabbits around here somewhere. There's a rabbit up there, just up there, and camels as well. But just over this hill, if I go past this rabbit, I do have a little fishing pier here, which the villagers will sometimes come and use. Obviously they don't actually, but I thought that it would be nice to have a little fishing pier here for the villagers. Speaking of villagers, I actually have a custom jungle village here, complete with a town square, as well as mobs like ocelots, parrots, warm chickens, a wandering trader apparently, and a bee, which I genuinely don't know where that bee came from. I don't have any bee nests around here. But for the farming area, I did include little patches of farmland, but all of these villages are actually from the original village that spawned at the very start of this map. Walking through some of the more denser parts of this jungle, I come to the very edge where I've got a little bamboo forest, and unfortunately pandas can't be attached to leads, so they are just sort of kept in cages, but I did bring pandas over here from the original bamboo forest, which is a couple thousand blocks in that direction. Before I show things like where I stored all the items to build all of this, I just figured I would do a quick 360 so you can just see all of these custom biomes, all these custom trees, custom mushrooms. It's been really fun to build all this. So out of all of these biomes, the only ones to not have custom trees is the Mega Tiger over there, as well as the jungle biome. Other than that, every single tree on this entire island is custom. Oh, as well as the azalea trees down there, I almost forgot. Flying a few hundred blocks in this direction leads me to my little ocean base, and if you follow my Forever World, you know I love ocean bases with a passion. They are my favourite things to build with. I also have an AFK completely passive guardian farm system up here, which they're all completely full because I've left these running for so long. I don't think there's any space in any of the chests or hoppers. But coming inside the ocean monument, I also have things like a map room in here, a furnace array, as well as some villager trading halls on either side, and an enchanting station over there as well. But it's underneath the ocean monument where my game starts to lag a bit, because I do have thousands of hoppers down here for chests with items. Every single item in the game is sorted down here, and this has sort of been my main base of operations when it comes to deciding things like building materials and things to do on my island to completely terraform it. If you like what I've done with this island, please do subscribe, and don't forget there is a world download link for this island in the description if you are interested in making this a survival series of your own. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you on the next series.